A jealous queen, a magical mirror, and a poisoned apple that changed everything. Long ago, in a grand and magnificent kingdom, there lived a queen who was known for her beauty and elegance. However, behind her graceful appearance, she was extremely proud and obsessed with being the most beautiful person in the entire land. Every single day, she would stand in front of her magical mirror and ask the same question in a confident voice. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? For many years, the mirror always gave her the same answer, telling her that she was the most beautiful. This made her feel powerful and satisfied. But one day, the mirror's answer suddenly changed. It revealed that a young girl named Snow White had become the fairest of all. Hearing this, the queen's expression turned dark with anger, her heart filled with jealousy, and from that moment, she could not accept the truth. Snow White was a gentle and kind-hearted young girl who lived in the same kingdom. She was loved by everyone, not only because of her beauty but also because of her pure and caring nature. She always treated people with kindness, whether they were rich or poor. Snow White had a calm and peaceful personality, and she found happiness in simple things. She often spent time near the castle gardens, enjoying nature and talking to birds and animals. She had no idea that the queen had become jealous of her. While Snow White continued living her life with innocence and joy, danger was quietly growing around her. The queen's jealousy slowly turned into hatred, and she began thinking of ways to remove Snow White from her life forever. The queen finally decided to act on her jealousy and created a cruel plan. She called a huntsman and ordered him to take Snow White deep into the dark forest. She commanded him to never bring her back. The huntsman obeyed the queen's orders and led Snow White far away from the castle. As they walked deeper into the forest, Snow White felt confused and slightly afraid, but she trusted the huntsman. When they finally stopped, the huntsman looked at her and saw her innocence and kindness. He realized that he could not harm such a gentle soul. His heart filled with sympathy, and he made a difficult decision. Instead of hurting her, he told Snow White to run away and never return. Frightened and alone, she ran into the forest, not knowing what would happen. Snow White ran as fast as she could through the dark and endless forest. The tall trees surrounded her from every side, making her feel small and afraid. Strange sounds echoed in the distance, and every rustling leaf made her heart beat faster. She had never been alone like this before. Tears filled her eyes as she continued running, hoping to find a safe place. After a long time, she became tired and weak, and her steps slowed down. Just when she thought she could not go any further, she saw a small cottage hidden among the trees. With a little hope left in her heart, she slowly walked toward. Snow White gently pushed the door open and stepped inside the small cottage. Everything inside looked neat but very tiny, as if it belonged to small people. There were 7 little chairs placed around a table and 7 small beds lined up in a row. The room felt warm and peaceful, which made her feel safe for the first time in a long while. She was extremely tired from running through the forest all day. After looking around for a moment, she sat down and soon fell into a deep sleep. She did not know who lived there, but at that moment, she only needed rest and safety. Later that evening, the owners of the cottage returned home. They were 7 small workers who spent their days working together in the mountains. As they entered their house, they immediately noticed that something was different. The chairs were moved, and the room looked slightly disturbed. They carefully walked inside and found Snow White sleeping peacefully on the beds. At first, they were surprised and confused, but when she woke up and told them her story, their hearts softened. They felt sympathy for her situation and decided to help her. They allowed her to stay with them, as long as she promised to stay careful and safe. Back at the castle, the queen once again stood in front of her magical mirror and asked her usual question. When the mirror told her that Snow White was still alive, her anger grew stronger than ever before. She realized that her plan had failed, and she could no longer trust others to do her work. Determined to finish what she had started, the queen turned to dark magic. She used her powers to transform herself into an old and harmless-looking woman. Then she prepared a special apple. It looked bright, fresh, and delicious from the outside, but inside it carried a powerful and deadly poison. Disguised as an old woman, the queen made her way to the cottage where Snow White lived. That day, Snow White was alone, as the others had gone to work. The old woman knocked on the door and offered her a beautiful red apple. Snow White hesitated at first, remembering the warning to be careful. However, the apple looked so fresh and tempting that she slowly accepted it. The moment she took a bite, everything changed. Her body became still, and she fell to the ground. The poison worked instantly, putting her into a deep and silent sleep that looked like death. When the 7 companions returned home, they found Snow White lying on the ground, completely still. They were shocked and heartbroken. They tried everything they could to wake her, but nothing worked. She looked peaceful, as if she was simply sleeping, but she did not respond at all. They could not bring themselves to bury her. Instead, they placed her gently inside a beautiful glass coffin so they could always see her. Day after day, they stayed near her, hoping for a miracle. The forest grew quiet, and sadness filled the air as they waited, refusing to give up hope. One day, a prince was traveling through the forest when he came across the glass coffin. He saw Snow White lying inside, looking as beautiful as ever. He was deeply moved by her appearance and felt a strong connection to her. As he stood close to her, something magical happened. Slowly, Snow White opened her eyes. The spell that had kept her asleep was finally broken. The prince was filled with joy, and Snow White was confused but relieved to be awake again. Soon, her life changed forever. She left behind her painful past and stepped into a future full of happiness, love, and peace.